Good afternoon, everybody. So today I am going to be your host for this webinar, and I'm super excited just to share like a really easy, quick webinar with you guys on some Google tips and tricks that maybe you've not heard of. Now, if you're a pretty techie person, then you've done a lot of like maybe the Google Educator test or you're a Google trainer, you're probably going to know all of these tips and tricks already. But if you haven't and you're just kind of getting going, then this definitely might be something new for you to try. So I'm going to get started here. I don't have a slide deck today. Like I said, I'm really kind of just sharing some quick and easy things that I'm hoping will be really beneficial. And as always, one thing that I try to do when I'm going through these presentations is I try to share kind of the why behind it and why these are beneficial for the classroom. So some of these things will definitely have a great why, and some of them are just kind of cool tech tips for you to try. So I'm going to share my screen. And let's see, it was saying there was a bug at first, which would be horrible. But there we go. Awesome. All right. So what I'm going to show you as the very first Google tip and trick is I am going to show you what is called response validation. So response validation is absolutely one of my favorite tricks that you can use in Google Forms. So right now, if you're kind of following along with me, feel free to open up Forms, and it's one of my favorite tools to use. Like, I absolutely love Google Forms, and I used it a ton in the classroom, and I used it a lot as an administrator now. But response validation is really cool because what you can do is you can set up a question to be like, it has to be answered a specific way. And if it doesn't get answered that way, you can't move on. Okay. So let's say, for instance, I want to ask a question like, what is 2 + 2? Now, I can definitely set this up in quiz or in like Google quizzes. So that way at the end, it will tell them if they got it right or wrong. But if I want a more immediate feedback and for them to have a quicker response on whether or not they got it right, I can use response validation. So what I do is I first make this required so they can't move on without getting it. And then I go to, where's my little response validation button? Oh, I need to change it to short answer. Okay. And then go to response validation. So that's super, super important that it does have to be a short answer. So when I click response validation, it gives me all these different things. And this is kind of like a hidden thing. People don't always know this is there. But I could say that the number has to be exactly equal to 4. And if it's not that, then it's going to stop them from being able to go further than that. So one other thing I want to add in is a custom error text. And this custom error text, I'm going to say, just try again. And the reason that's really important is that if I don't put a custom error text, when they get that answer wrong, it's going to tell them your answer must be 4. So I will kind of show you that in a second. But when I go to the live view, what this looks like is you'll see that the asterisk is there to basically tell you. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you don't see me and you see the screen. But the little asterisk there says that it's required. And let's say I put in 5. Nothing happens right away. But when I click off, or if I try to hit submit, it doesn't let me submit. It's going to say try again. Now, let me go back real quick and show you what happens. Oops. If I didn't put try again. Sorry, that's later. The little puppies thing. So if I didn't put this, then what I'm going to see, and if I put in 5, see, it's going to say must be equal to the number 4, which that's really not very helpful, right? You don't want them to see that it has to be equal to 4 because that's the answer. So instead, I change this to try again. And when I go back and I refresh my form, it's going to say that, let me try a number, it's not it. It's going to say 5 and try again. Now, if I put 4, it will not have that big red box that shows up around it. And instead, I can actually hit submit and enter it. Now, one thing that I absolutely loved using this for is I use this a lot for like doing what I called ninja problems and having different belts, right? So I had like a white belt and an orange belt and a yellow belt all the way up to a black belt. And there were different types of problems because I was a math teacher. And so the white belt problems were much easier, and then the black belt problems were much harder. But they could basically see if they were getting them right as they went along. I didn't always make them required, because if they couldn't get all the way to the end, that was okay with me on those types of activities. But I could add more questions here, and I could keep saying, well, the answer has to be such and such. And that way they could get immediate feedback on if they're getting it right or wrong. Now, other parts that are really cool about response validation is, like, maybe you are an English teacher and you want them to explain what a prompt is. I don't know, guys, I'm not an English teacher. But what you could do is when you could change this to response validation, and it's funny because this actually changed it to paragraph automatically, but you could click response validation, and you can even have a minimum character account, because I think we all know that sometimes our kiddos are like, oh, cool, I'm going to write like a prompt is this, and it's not going to be really short, or maybe you want them to write a longer answer. So you could say that the minimum character count has to be at least 20 characters. So when you go and view this one, if I only type this much in, it's not going to let them go on until they give those two 20 characters, which would be kind of a weird length of time to do, but it's definitely something that you could. So I like the minimum length, and I've also used maximum length. Like, I don't want you to write too long, but those are a couple of great features to use. I use response validation a ton when I do like breakout EDUs that I've created, because they make kind of a great lockbox for students to have to break into. But there's a lot of other different response validation things that you can choose in here. You can choose length, minimum or maximum. You can choose an expression, and maybe it has to contain or doesn't contain a certain word. If it's short answer, I think kind of like the 2 + 2 one, I'll just bump up here. When you look at this one actually includes number, text, length, and regular expression. So just keep an eye out that. Number defaults to, like, I think greater than the top one. So you just have to keep an eye out if you need to make sure that it's equal to or less than or something like that. But I love response validation. Again, you can totally use Google quizzes, but if you're looking for something with a little bit more immediate feedback, I love the way that this box right here pops up if you didn't like get it right. So I think it's super great. I see a few people are kind of getting on to now. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments at any time. So that was our first Google tip and trick. Our second one that I'm going to share is one that I absolutely love. And this has to do with kind of linking between slides. And so this is one of my favorite little known tricks. So let's say that I'm going to do like a create your own adventure story. And maybe like the person is walking down the path. Should they go right or left? If any of you know me on here, you know that, like, the design person in me hates when things don't look nice. But what I could do is I could say right, and you could say left, and then I could create the story. Yes, I am that crazy. Like, I really want that little red line to pop up so that I know it matches, even though this is just an example. But I could create 2 more sides. And I could create the right slide, so right path. And I can create the left path. And what I can do from here is that I can highlight this, and however you choose to do it, you can come up here and link. I tend to always hit Control-K to link, but I can choose to pick a slide that's in the presentation. And let me drag this up a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to see if it's not in the right place. But when I hit the link, I can choose a slide in this presentation and choose the right path and apply it. Okay, so I'm going to also do the same thing with the left. If I can get to it. There we go. And apply. Now, what's really cool is when I click on right, it's going to have this little pop-up, and I can then click on it, and it's going to take me to the right slide. If I go back, I can click left, and that takes me to the left path, which I absolutely love. And so my students did this to like create their own adventure stories, and you could do it to ask them questions and lead them to like yes or no, it was correct or not, and not correct. But I really love the idea of kind of putting it in the hands of the students and letting them go with it and letting them kind of, you know, create their own stories and their own paths. I have them even kind of mind map it out and where did the different paths go. And it was really fun to kind of see the different stories they created. So that is our second tip. The third one that I am going to share is good. I hid my email. I was like, oh, it's so scary in there. Is something that probably a lot of you do know already, but it's just this kind of sidebar here that it's been around for, I don't know, maybe a year or so, but doesn't get enough use. So what's kind of cool about this is you can click on this and bring up different things. So you can bring up your Google Calendar, you can bring up your Google Keep, which who knows what's in there. Like you can see my grocery list. And that actually links up to your regular Google Keep. And then you've also got tasks here, which I probably have made up tasks from a previous training. Yeah. So there's tasks that you can add from emails as well. I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking at that because my email is probably a really, really scary place. But this toolbar right here is really, really great. I like having this open sometimes because instead of having open, like say for instance, my like calendar and my email on a different one, I can basically have just this open with my email and my calendar side by side, or my email and my Google Keep side by side. So I love the use of this a lot right here, and just being able to click on that or click on my calendar and see my like daily goal and objectives, right? All right, so my next one that I'm going to show you is a very, very simple one, but it's kind of cool. So it's in Drive. But let's say that I've got this, you guys can see like my Drive is a mess, so please don't judge. Like there's all sorts of crazy stuff in here. But let's say I've got this presentation down here, Meet versus Zoom, and I want to add that into two different folders. So let's say I want to add that into, I don't know, my professional development and my Boost EDU folder. What I can do is I can hit Control Z. Oh, let's see. I'm going to go in. I'm getting ahead of myself, guys. I'm going to go to Move To. And I'm going to go into my professional development folder. I'm going to hold Control and oh, and it's not working. Uh-oh. I thought it was Control Z. Maybe one of my, oh, I don't know. My husband jacked up my whole thing. Let me come back to that in a second. And I might be like totally, oh, it's Shift Z. Maybe it's Shift Z. Or maybe, let's add it in there first and see what happens. Move To. Let's go to webinars. And it's not playing nice with me today. Oh, it's so sad, guys. I even just double checked it and looked it up, but total hashtag fell. So I don't know why it's not working up, but it should. I don't know if anybody's on watching. I saw Melissa earlier. Maybe she can tell me if I'm doing this wrong. But normally, and I've only done this 1,000 million times, is that you can click Shift Z, and then this will change to add here, and you can add it to a multiple places. So I don't know why that's not working. She's like, you're amazing. Thanks. I don't know what happened there, guys. So that's a little bit of a fail, but it should work. I don't know if it's just because I'm on my personal account and not on my EDU, but that shouldn't be it. All right. One last thing I want to show you guys is the Google search. And I looked up Doberman puppies because they're super cute and I have a Doberman. But this is a skill that I think is super great to share with your students. And this is how to kind of make sure that pictures and images that they're using online, they're allowed to use, because people don't always know that not all the images are allowed to be used. So always kind of scary looking up images while you are on live too. So when you are working with your students, a lot of time there's copyright issues and they can't have certain pictures used. So if you have them come in here and they go to search an image and they click tools, you can do a whole bunch of different things and do a lot of different searches in different ways. So one great way is that you can do usage rights, and you can label for reuse with modification, or label for reuse or non-commercial use, but you'll see that it kind of changes the ones that you're allowed to use. So now you can see that these are the only pictures that you're allowed to use. And these ones are safe and they're like copyright protected and like they're allowed for you to use. But in addition to that, you could even kind of choose some other settings. Like if you were looking for a specific photo, you could go back to tools, and maybe you're looking for a certain color in the background. So you could say it's got a white background. It searches for it by color. So I think that's kind of a cool one. And then you can even say like when was the last time it was posted, and you could say, is it clip art? Is it a line drawing? And you can even pick size. So again, I wanted to make this a quick and short 5 easy tips. I'm not sure why my Google Drive one was messing up, and I was even double checking it right now. And I can't see why it's not working. So I apologize for that one. But if you have any questions on this, feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to answer them. Hope you guys all enjoy your weekend. For some of us, it's a 4-day weekend. And I will see you next week for some more webinars. Have a great week. Bye.